So I would like to talk. I would like to start. I think this is going to be probably a lot of stories, a series of stories,
I can't wait, and I agree.
and I have a very archetypal, like stories is something like telling stories is something like evolved very naturally. Like you can't most like little kids obviously can't do it. Like they kind of suck at it. They include a lot of details that are wrong. I mean, they do it in their own style. Like it's got its own thing. But
There are very few toddlers in writers' rooms. I agree.
there you go. And like, so it tends to be like a smooth, long evolution. But I do have a moment where I can recall
Oh my
being in
God.
a specific conversation where it's like, all right, so you want to tell a story? Here's what you got to do. Because whenever I first arrived at it at the boarding school that we went to, the high risk
We'll get to
therapeutic
that.
boarding school for high risk adolescents that you and I both attended. My name's T.C. Fleming. Your name's Alex Stevens.
Yes, sir.
Okay. I would basically just want to like tell people about my friends because I really missed my friends and I liked my friends. And so I would, constantly being the like, oh yeah, what you said, that's kind of like me and my friend. Except it didn't have like any structure. It was just like I would just fucking like plop out this like memory, just all of it. It would not be in narrative form. And yeah, I remember where I was in the lodge, the main building of our area where like the social things would happen, and I was sitting across the table from you and got through with one of these like just fucking word plops of like oh yeah, mac and cheese. Sometimes we used to make mac and cheese, me and my friends. Like that's not a story. And you were like, all right, so here's how you have to do this.
you did have to step it up.
Start out, introduce the characters. Just be like, all right, it was me. It was Mike. It was it. And then like say where you are. and then like, start with everything. And I don't know, thank you. Like I needed that lesson. And I feel like it served me, like it's not even like the advice you gave in that moment was like, it was fine, but it made me identify like, this is something, it's a skill. There's a way to work on it. It's like gave me a structure for getting better, a ladder I could climb. And I don't know. I feel like the things I've been thinking about after you said that to me, whenever I was a fucking 14-year-old in 2001, has led us to here in ways that none of us could have imagined. So, something to consider.
Yeah, dude. I mean, for the listener, we did not plan this. TC said he had an anecdote to start with. And I just I don't know what to say because to the extent I was ever a teacher, I've long been surpassed, as that story you just told demonstrates, because it was great. And I didn't even realize, that you were doing the thing.
Thank you, but that's bullshit. Like you're...
no, it was better than the way you told it when you told it to me this summer.
Okay.
Because I was going to say, when you told it to me this summer, it was like, I think I did cry. Like, I mean, I had help. But, as we'll get to, I'm sure eventually. But like, it meant so much to me because you are such a great storyteller. And I knew we had like conversations like that.
I mean, that's all the sentence you just gave. Like, I just can't imagine. Like when I hear it, when you saying that, like I really appreciate it. But like,
yeah.
I think I just would have like had a heart attack or something at 14, just because it's a weird dynamic because like now we're at an age where like our age differences are like not nearly as noticeable. We're going through more or less the same thing. Sure. But I was a freshman, you're a senior.
For the listener, I'd say.
I don't think that's accurate.
Yeah, going on. Yeah, no.
Yeah,
might as well be.
I mean, most people can recall like dynamics of like, if one of the seniors said something positive about you and you were a freshman,
sure, of course,
that has a specific meaning for everyone. Yeah. So I don't even know. I wish I could go back and tell that guy like one day he's gonna be like, you know what, you did it, you learned how.
I mean it, dude. I mean, obviously, I'm not the first person to say this, but I really feel great sitting here watching the storyteller in his prime. It's wonderful.
Now it's too thick. Now you're laying it on too thick.
No, I think it's good, man. I think it brings us to one of the points that we've kind of circled around, which is, I don't know if we want to talk about our tag for the podcast or what. I think you did it. Basically, in telling that story, another reason why it was good, and I'll stop the compliments. But we are two guys who met at a boarding school in Conroe, Texas, at the turn of the millennium, I would say, around 9/11, which is an organizing event, at least for me, with respect to my time there. And we'll get to our different experiences. But there's certainly, all kinds of emotions along the way. And we're not here to shy away from any of them, but that also includes the good ones. And I am grateful that we reunited. I'm grateful we're doing this right now and that we have stories like that. So, that's what we're here to do. I think there are good, positive experiences to take from it. Sometimes it involves treading through the negative, or what felt like the negative at the time. Still might, depending on how you look at it. But
I'd say, if anything, I view more of it as negative now than I did in the moment.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that's going to be we'll see, but I feel like a major focus is going to be the degree to which they succeeded in training you to view those things through the lens that they wanted them to be viewed towards, of like, yeah, I know it looks like we're abusing you, but actually this is like a Miyagi Danielson kind of thing.
Sure.
And at the time, it just would have been hard not to give that thought an audience in your head. This is a Miyagi thing. But like looking back now, it's like, no, it's just abuse.
Okay, I certainly don't contest that point, obviously. And I agree that there are a lot of experiences. There was no shortage of experiences that at the time caused me to think this is fucked up, obviously.
There's days where I was like, there are people that would just wake up every day thinking about helping kids, and they're doing their best to help these kids.
Well, hold on. I'm not sure. Are you saying you woke up?
The program administrators were waking up thinking, how can I help these kids? How can I reach these kids?
I agree that there were days when they woke up fully. First of all, we watched that movie a lot. Were you there during that era? I know it was a South Park too.
Yeah, I'm just thinking about the South Park.
Do you know the movie?
Hardball?
I think it's called... No, what's that?
We watched Hardball.
I don't know what that is. I don't think I do.
I think it's... Who is it? Oh, it's Keanu Reeves is...
I do know.
Yeah.
The baseball coach?
Yeah.
That's the Replacements? Or did he make two?
He made two.
Nice, dude.
I mean, he probably made more than two.
He made his own Prestige and Illusionist.
Yes.
That is a meta Prestige.
I mean...
move.
They're very Hardball. Like they both deal with sports, but like they deal with it in different ways. Hardball, he's teaching
the delinquents.
Kids. Yeah,
is that Hardball or the Replacements?
That's
are like
Hardball.
losers.
The Replacements is that he's a scab NFL player, and it's just about the team. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay, I thought they were both baseball coach movies.
No.
Okay.
Replacements is about scabs in an NFL strike. I think that they don't say NFL, but obviously that's what they're talking about.
The prominent football leagues players all go on strike or just one team?
All go on strike.
And
which did happen. I don't know if you know that. It was before we were alive. Or before I was
alive.
Every
NFL player went on strike in the 80s.
And they got scabs.
And the NFL replaced the league in its entirety.
Like same jerseys.
Please, first of all, we call them replacement workers, dude. I'm just kidding.
I do not, dude. Don't you fucking.
Yeah, no, but I agree. Go on.
Yeah. I'm not really here to talk about the 1983 NFL strike.
No, but I had no idea that happened. So they fully did the Replacements?
Yeah, that's why. I mean, before the movie, that was the inspiration for the movie. That's the content they're working on.
Oh, for real? Okay.
But, you know, they
now I
change
am
details.
literally curious. Like, where do they get these guys? How do they do it? Like,
College players who weren't good enough to play in the NFL.
who were just kind of like they had tried. They had a
But
list
they had
of people
graduated from college,
did
practice
the combine.
squads.
They did.
Yeah.
Okay. And was there if you know,
Sean Payton was the Bears quarterback for a couple games.
he was a scab.
Yeah.
Sean, that's what I was going to ask you. Did like any of them become anything? Was there any like cultural?
If any of them made an impact playing after the strike ended, I don't recall that. But like I said, it's before I was born.
But the strike ended, and some of them either continued to play or went on
I
to
don't think
play.
so. I think that they were.
Only Sean Payton is the only one you know that made the transition.
But he didn't like continue on as the Bears quarterback.
He later became.
He
know
became a
who's-
coach.
Oh, see,
Yeah, no, he's a coach. He's
he
the
never
coach of
played the
Saints
NFL
right now.
after, as you put it,
Yeah.
scabbing.
Correct.
Okay.
I mean,
Okay.
as any reasonable, big-hearted person would put it.
Yeah. I mean, for the listener, well, obviously, this is not the focus of this episode, but, you know, labor relations are very important to both of us, I think. Probably more important to you these days.
Paradoxically, yeah.
Yeah, but I have management brain still. But, you know, I don't mean anything by questioning TC on this, but I will say, you know, I do think, okay.
I think I would turn it off after you said that if I were listening to someone talk
Would you
about
really?
management
Well, don't do
brain.
that yet, dude. Or turn it off if you fucking want, dude. Go ahead. Let's polarize those people out.
Not here to listen to management brain
Well, I'm
people.
not either, dude. But that's why I'm asking you these questions and not being like, actually, scabs are good. Like, I'm not saying that,
I
dude.
hear you. Yeah.
But what I am saying, or what I was about to say, is scabs are people. So they're often,
Can't deny that.
they are temporarily making more money than the people they're scabbing, which is, you know, how it works. But emphasis on the temporarily. That's why I was curious. Like, did anyone like Tony Romo out afterwards? You know what I mean? Like someone that wasn't that good, but then it turned out they were. Did that happen to Keanu?
I don't recall.
Because it would be interesting to know the culture. Like, how does that work? Because often it's, you know, like you're saying, like, fuck them, they cross the line. Which, like, I get it, dude. Like, if there's a long history, like, that's how you draw, you know, who you treat.
Yeah,
a
like,
certain
of
way
course
versus a
I
different way.
understand the people who are like, they are going to pay me a lot of money now. I mean, you know, like someone like Sean Payton would be like, I get to play a football game in Soldier Field. Do you know how big of a deal that is to me? Personal history, which I don't know, makes a big difference. Maybe this is just me bragging with no anything else behind it. I'm willing to be open to that possibility.
Brag, dude.
But we you know, our families are commingled, intermixed.
Sean Payton? Is that a brag? He's a scab, dude.
It's kind of a big deal. I mean, he's a Super Bowl winning coach. He's not primarily
Interesting.
known as a scab.
That's how you see him.
Most people don't even know that he was a scab.
Well, it sounds like they
Nowadays,
know him as a person.
I would think.
And I think that's good. That's what I'm saying. There's more to these people.
I can always understand them as a person, but like,
they're
what
often
about
more
the fucking person you're replacing, dude? I care about you as much as you care about them.
Well, dude, not to get too labor law-y, it definitely depends on, like, in terms of how they actually affect the person they're scabbing or replacing or whatever, if they're permanent or temporary. Because that's a whole labor law issue where, like, everybody likes to talk about fucking, I don't even remember all but okay, I do remember this. The amendment of the NLRA, the Taft-Hartley Act, everyone's like, that is where it got gutted, dude. That's like, you know, the disgraceful fall from Eden. Sure. I mean, I am not a historian, but I will say in terms of like practical effects, one under-discussed element, I would say, because it's less old, but it's, you know, like most labor things, it's happening in administrative decisions or court decisions. Very little legislation is actually going on. That's why people like to point to 1947, I think, in some ways. But whatever decision it was, I don't even remember when it was, but I think it was like in the 80s where they said you could permanently replace. That had to be decided.
That was the air traffic controllers, right?
I don't think so.
That's not because I mean they fired all the air traffic controllers.
Yeah, I remember that. And now that you mention that, I also think the case I'm thinking of is around the same time. And I also think the air traffic controller thing is like the 1947 amendment in that it's an event.
It looms large in my mind.
For sure. Well, in the popular labor discourse, it was, I think, certainly assigned the meaning of a turning point. Something matters when the president does it, first of all, or endorses it. And I don't even know if air
It's
traffic.
like, what are the substantial life-changing strikes like after that?
Well, I remember in the 90s when UPS went on strike. That was like when I learned what a strike was. There was a summer when
I don't
UPS
recall
went
that.
on strike in the 90s.
You know, that's what, to some
the
degree,
movie
to a
Newsies.
large degree, what Jake's dad, like that was, or yeah, you do that, right?
I don't.
He was, I'm pretty sure it was UPS, but like, he was management. Like, he was there to like fucking
Well, there people too.
knock
Just like
skulls
scabs.
of these, and his grandpa, his dad's dad was, like, union man his whole life.
That's an interesting dynamic.
So they would just, sit around debating the merits of the structure in there. Once both of them are retired and not, actively involved or no stakes anymore, to just be
Wow.
like, yeah, you.
That would be quite a podcast, dude.
I would love to hear it.
Yeah, dude. I wonder like who swayed whom or who was hiding how they felt more. I would think the union guy, if they were worth anything as a union, would feel.
I mean, he was like living off the pension they negotiated actively as they were having this talk, so he felt pretty strongly.
Yeah, it's pretty sick to be like,
Yeah.
do you like that couch? Like,
Yeah.
yeah. Did you go to college? Like,
Yeah.
Do you know how I paid for it? Like, that would be, yeah. And I think you should give credit where it's due, dude. I mean, definitely. That's what I'm saying. Like we were talking about earlier about just like, you can't eliminate every blind spot. So sometimes you have to move on. So I was saying, if you're in a union on strike, I understand why you have to be like, fuck these scabs. You know what I mean? But I think if someone scabbed in the 80s or whatever, and they're listening to this right now and they're like, these guys hate me, I would say at least one half of them is willing to see the possibility that you're the Sean Payton of whatever the fuck you do.
I mean, again,
You know.
dude, I feel about you the way
We're
that
about
you-
the whole person
I,
here.
I care. I have the empathy for you that you had for those striking workers.
Oh, yeah. Well, I hear you, but like, let's give them an opportunity to be better.
I'm not a fucking dummy.
You
Like,
definitely, and fool me once. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like, if I
exactly.
agree, dude. I'm not saying let's third Mike a scab, dude. You know what I mean? But I'm just saying, our time at the school, for me, an important takeaway. The only way, it literally is like the biggest thing, I think, for the listener. Like we, like TC said, knew each other at this boarding school, but we did not leave at the same time. So we kind of like lived whole adult lives afterwards, and only recently, like I would say a little over a year.
yeah.
Yeah. Since whenever I got, in my opinion, fired from my job due to many factors, and I have not been able to rule out my time at Excel Academy, as one of the important ones. But, it's another battle. You get fired and you're like, fuck these people. But then you're like, at least with me, I'm like, it's not that hard to put myself in their shoes and imagine why you might want to fire me. You know what I mean? In fact, I can imagine many more reasons than the ones they gave me. And, you have to sort that out when you decide how to proceed after you get fired, as you discussed, recently in a different context.
I have a hard time. Like, sometimes I don't feel like I have an opinion on something, like I have two that are equally felt that are on exact opposite sides. Like when I'm thinking about certain factors, I can see why someone would have fired me. Other times I feel like it's obvious that the injustice that they have done is like, in any reasonable society would carry significant consequences. You know what I mean?
For sure. And I think that goes, it was interesting. We will get to obviously so many topics, but a big part of this place was like using the language, I would say, of self-help, the 12 steps, and overall spirituality, I would say, with a Christian tinge that was sometimes more prominent, sometimes less apparent, to really brutalize children. So it sucks that people can like parade around the Bible and use it to hurt people. But at the same time, like they can't stop to the extent, and I think there is wisdom in the Bible. Like I think there's a lot of universally beneficial things there. Even somebody like trying to do evil with it can't help. Like the light shines
Like that's
out
not
through
the
those
full
cracks.
picture of the Bible.
Fuck no.
It's not like the if you want to explain like what the Bible is, to be like it's a tool you can use as a cudgel against children.
Yeah, no, definitely.
That's clearly not the full picture.
Yeah, but it can be that too.
But it is that.
Even when it's that, it's never wholly that.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. Like there are things where like the good shines through. And so one of those for me was being forced to memorize the Our Father prayer. Like it just was, I don't know if you were there.
Forced to memorize?
Oh my God. Yeah, dude. Like fully. I'm
just saying like.
I'm not Catholic like that, dude. I'm culturally.
Well, come on, dude. Like forced to like we do it once a service. I don't recall a time where I didn't know it.
Yeah. Well, I'm not, again, like, dude, I
need to have a talk with your folks, dude.
That would be a podcast in itself as well.
I don't feel like they raised you right.
I mean, I've suggested as much to them over the years, but, I have come around on that. I think they did their best, and I'm happy sitting here with the result. Not as good a time as any to say that.
Sure.
I think the whole person analysis goes, it's like everything. I mean,
you can sweep incredible evil under the rug with that
attitude,
obviously.
And that actually is an easier blind spot for me for whatever reason. I am happier just because you can only have so many villains like in your life. You know what I mean? And I'm not talking about my own parents so much as we've had our own discussions like enough to look back. We've talked about, I don't even want to get into it, but fucking sometimes you look at kids and you're like, wow, you're lucky. All you got was sent to excel. Instead of like, you should still be in jail. Like if you had gotten caught under other circumstances, you would be.
Some kids have that story, yeah.
It's weird that you're here and you're lucky. And it's like, it's weird to think about. But there are other kids where it's like, yo.
You told me about a kid that did a robbery last time we were together, and I've like still have not been able to process that. Like, I don't know. He just, of all the people I've ever like, that fucking blows my mind.
I know. And I mean, to me, it's like, it is insane. But it's like to think about what you have to be in to think that those are good
You do
decisions.
learn like how far people can drift from a version of themselves.
Shit. Man.
Like because they, like kids, you very much in certain ways, like were allowed and encouraged to be like more childlike. In some ways, like the innocence.
In some ways, you were infantilized.
Yeah.
Forcefully and brutally infantilized, made to pantomime.
I think that wasn't necessarily, it was somewhat a motivation of the staff. But I think.
On some levels, it was like a subconscious, like what they wanted.
I think that's what a lot of parents were paying for.
Yeah.
They remembered how cute you were when you were like 7. They remember how much they loved that kid that didn't tell them to fuck off.
Mm-hmm.
And whenever they said like, hey, if you give us $50,000 a year, we'll get him back.
Yep.
That's what they were paying for. 100%.
Yeah, I think that's right. And can I just go off real quick about that?
Yeah.
I mean, I do. I think one of the like meta tensions maybe in like our discussions always about this is like how much is good and how much is bad and what should you focus on? Mm-hmm. Because I do think it's like, and this, predates Excel in many ways and it applies to many things, in my life. I do try to look at the good. Like, I think it's out of necessity, and sometimes things can get so rough that it's like, that's the only thing keeping you going. But, to your point, it's like, do you want your blind spot to be like, that scab, probably maybe couldn't keep his lights on if he didn't fucking scab that month or, whatever. The kid didn't get shoes for school, whatever. You can't afford that blind spot if you're leading a strike. You're derelict in duties you have taken on to the people in your organization.
Yeah, what about the fucking shoes of the guys that are trying to get a living wage here? Yeah. Like by striking.
Yeah, for sure, dude. And I think there's a way of looking at it, and I don't feel like mounting a case against it, which is a weird way of saying I agree with it. And maybe that's like management brain. That's how you have to like kind of like, I think that's why it's helpful, to engage in kind of the back and forth. But fuck, I forgot where I was going with that. But what did I just agree with? The fucking, yeah. The shoes, there's a way of saying, dude, the strike is kind of for everybody. Even you, scab. because it's like you're being treated like shit. For,
Oh, yeah.
Like you're out on your ass in 2 months. That's why that decision was such a big deal, dude, because you basically the NFL got to say like, we don't like any of you motherfuckers because you went on strike. We're keeping the replacements. And there's nothing you can do about it. You technically can't say you laid them off. And if the replacements quit, the old striking workers have to be on a preferential recall list. So you're not laid off. It's like if Keanu is like, I'm going to go be in the Matrix, the top quarterback or whoever is going to get the call. Like there's time limits or whatever. But it's like that makes a strike so scary, or perhaps it made before that a strike very easy, and AKA scary for management.
Yeah.
Because like these motherfuckers can walk out and we have to give them their jobs back. Like that's a meaningful part of being a union. So when you your life has just changed if you're management with a union, because the implicit, by the time you're making it explicit, you should just fire the person, in my opinion, because you've lost them, where you're just like, take a walk. You can go face the breadline or find another job. If you can't permanently replace a striker, you can't really say that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's interesting to think about. I mean, I think these are kind of the things where, like we were talking about earlier, it's like there's the labor press, which is very pro-labor, and the media is increasingly unionizing, which is super interesting to think about. And it has effects. At the same time, there's a huge bifurcation there's like the business labor press, which is obviously a different perspective. They'll call a union lawyer for sure and can like get a quote and a perspective. And I've never known a shy union lawyer in my life. So it's not like, they're not asserting themselves at the bargaining table. But in the popular discourse, it does seem like there's like the polls sometimes result in, two echo chambers a little bit. So one thing I think that will come up just as we see the media unionize is maybe a little management brain. But I do appreciate you sharing your perspective, because I think it's usually there's like a lot to benefit from there. But that's not what we're here to talk about. I can see you glazing over, dude. Our Father.
Don't accuse me.
Well, dude, all I was going to say is, dude, do you mean it or not when you say in the Our Father, forgive us our trespasses as we forgive those who trespass against us? And after we first reconnected, remember, we talked about all that, like, we'll get into it all. I don't want to hijack that whole discussion or for that whole discussion. But I will say I was sitting right in that couch, dude, meditating like a few days later. And I was like thinking through the words of the Our Father, which is kind of like a mantra, almost like a mind clearing thing at this point, because I've been doing it for so long. But because, my mind was considerably more open, I was like, shit, dude, you have to fucking mean that, dude. Because like at bottom, like in many, including my conception of forgiveness, it's like, that's a person just like me. And when I think of things I've done wrong, I always know I had a fucking reason. It turned out it wasn't the right one. I'm sorry, and it's like, it's probably true. Like you said, dude, they were waking up thinking like, they weren't like, fuck these kids. I don't care if they live or die. They were like, I deeply care. And the only way they'll live is if I fucking, XYZ. Which is,
That's not the main thing that was going on, dude.
I agree. I'm not saying it's not the main thing, but I'm saying to acknowledge that it happened at all.
They wanted to pretend that was 100% of what was occurring when it was actually about 5%. And 95 was that they had a lot of bad things happen to them that had broken them in very specific ways, where they had a need for control that was no different than the need for cocaine or of fucking heroin, whatever in your mind is the worst addiction you could possibly have, where like you are absolutely controlled by what's the movie Ben is Back. There's Julia Roberts and
not familiar.
Lucas
Haas?
Hedges?
Pearl Harbor?
No, I mean, I don't remember Pearl Harbor, dude. I got a Pearl Harbor pre-Excel story. We can get to that later if you want. I don't want to tell it right now.
I was in trouble when we watched it at Excel. I saw like from the back of the room. I was happy to not
watch it.
It didn't look tight. Like that was
people were really mad at me the night that I watched Pearl Harbor.
Do you want to jump in?
No, because I want to tell you this Lucas Hedges story.
Okay, it is Lucas Hedges, not Lucas Haas.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
50% less interested.
It's a good movie.
You got me thinking you were telling a pussy posse story, dude.
No,
I just have to
it's
get
it's a
back to
recent
Earth.
movie. It was like within the last like 3 years. It was Julia Roberts made a movie about like having a son who comes home from rehab, and like
Oh shit!
is just
Yeah, I
fucking
saw the
like
trailer for that.
yeah,
Yeah,
and just
yeah,
like
yeah.
it's just about the
Focus features type.
he tries so hard not to do heroin, and like it does a good job of illustrating how difficult it is for him to like not actively engage in the thing that he knows is going to kill him, and just is like I can't fight. If I gotta die, I gotta die. And that's like the need I feel like they had for control, and like as best I can tell, continue to experience to this day. Like they just had to be moving around these pieces, and like they did not care what impact that was having on the person that was being
But
moved.
why-
It's just a fucking piece.
I agree.
We're just here to feed their addiction, dude.
But why was the control so important to them, do you think?
I mean, I'm sure that they wish that on some extent that like they have an idealized version of like, if only someone had been doing this for me, then I could have been protected from these things that hurt me so terribly much.
I agree.
Yeah.
And the way to be safe now is to exert such control over everyone in my environment that they
No, I get it.
implicitly-
I have all kinds of sympathy in my heart for the people
so
that
to
did me wrong this
when
way.
I was sitting on the couch, meditating on that, it's like, well, I know whenever I did wrong, I've never run an abusive boarding school, dude. Like, and I probably never will. I'll never run any boarding schools. I think there's no danger of that. But I've certainly done things I regret because I wanted to like not feel, negative emotions again. To be like, I was stupid, I let other people decide things that I never should have, and I'm never going to, feel that way again. And so I'm always going to make sure I'm in charge of like what happens to me, what my life is like.
Of course.
I think in some ways it's just more nuanced. It's a self-defeating strategy to try to control everyone around you. Like maybe that's how I got there, like seeing that at Excel, being like, they're still not getting what they actually want. You can tell, like
Clearly.
there's still terror in their hearts.
Yeah.
Like anytime they realize they're not in control, which they never were because they were trying to force it, you could see flashes. And
the burdens that wore on them were obvious. I mean, like the primary administrator, there was times where like she literally couldn't get out of bed.
For sure, dude. I mean, it takes a psychic toll.
Like months.
But doesn't
where
that...
it's like she just can't get out of bed.
I feel that is the part of her that needs forgiveness and that should get it. That, like, who knows what she would have been doing if she was out of bed. You know what I mean? Like, maybe that was the part of her that knew that was wrong. And I agree that's a sin, dude. To turn away from the part of you that tells you got to do something different, you're better than this, it might hurt, but you got to grow in this direction instead of the direction you're going. I've turned away from that, dude, and I regret it every time. And I try to I don't ever want to do it again. I know I'll be, there will be times, but
yeah, I don't know, dude. I know what
agree
you're
with-
saying. I understand. Like, I none of what you were saying is wrong. I agree with all of it. But we are fucking. This is the first 33 minutes that we have
Damn,
publicly discussed this.
All right, so agree
And,
to
like,
disagree, dude.
no,
I think
it's
the
not
Bible
agree to
applies.
disagree.
I think Jesus meant them when he said that's how you should pray. I think it included them. That's
we
all.
can do that.
That's
It's
all,
not
dude.
the
That's
first
all,
thing
dude.
I'm doing,
That's all,
dude.
I'll just point to the big man and we can move on.
This isn't their podcast
Jesus and I have one
about
view
their life and
you
what
have
happened to
a
them.
different- Yeah, dude.
No, dude, I don't have a different view. I have the exact same view.
Okay.
It's just about what you're fucking like prioritizing and forefronting.
I agree.
And
dude.
like, I'm not here to defend them. They can do that.
And their lawyers will.
I'm here to talk about what happened to me and
I
how it
fully
affected
agree,
me.
dude. And that's why
And
we're
the
here.
entire experience of the school was just like the only thing that got discussed was how great of a job they're doing, was how much that they're sacrificing for you. And like their narrative was advanced the entire time. And if I stood up and said like, actually, this is really hurting me in these ways, I would have gotten yelled at. They would have told me to shut the fuck up. It would have been it would have wrecked my life for a month. It would be fucking a long time before like the consequences of me uttering one sentence of like, actually, I think this is a bad idea would be. So
And the
that's
only
why
way I would just add,
you're right. You're right entirely.
Thank you.
About
but so are you, dude. Obviously, I mean, people say there can't be two alphas, but this podcast proves them wrong. I think because we agree with each other so much. And even when we disagree, I feel like it's like, I kind of see where you're coming from, but here I fully agree. Like, I would go further. The only way the consequences would have ever abated would have been if you basically got down on your knees and over emphatically not just said you were wrong, but said how right they are.
After the 20th time that I like said, I'm a piece of shit, you're a fucking God, or, you know, I can't tell the difference between God and you.
Perhaps literally said that.
Yeah.
Like, there were times when it had more extreme stuff than that.
Then they'd be like,
part of the litany.
All right, you can go from jumpsuit to red shirt.
Yeah. Yeah. For sure. So
and
I'm
red
not
shirt sucks,
here,
guys.
Dude, this podcast first, and that was the only other thing I wanted to say. It's never my intention to put forth their perspective. I'm putting forth my perspective. I don't think I have seen, like you said, no evidence of the beginning of even an acknowledgement that forgiveness could ever be appropriate. And so it's something I do for me, like, because and we don't have to get into it now.
With any kind of like forgiveness or like, this came up a lot with the Kavanaugh stuff, right? And it's not the exact same, a little, but you know, let's see if we can take some wisdom from there.
Dude, go for it. Yeah.
Of just, you know, people would be like, this is something he did when he was 18. He's like, you know, he hasn't done it in a long time.
Allegedly.
Like his actions have like, you know, represented someone who like doesn't want to do that now. And so like, can't we just evaluate? Like this This wasn't even in his like adult life.
Who's saying this though? That's why I said allegedly, because I feel like people were either like, he did it and he shouldn't be a judge, or he didn't do it and he should be a judge. No one was like, maybe he did it, but he's...
Who's saying it? The decision makers, dude. The people who are in the the Senate who are in the middle of, like, who are on the line.
Their bosses.
On the line.
Let's be real, dude. Their bosses.
What?
Maybe you don't agree with me on that. The bosses of the United States senators who tell them what to do. We're okay with Kavanaugh. Yeah, I mean, that's
but I'm saying
I
like there were people who voted to confirm Kavanaugh. Who were key votes, like the final votes needed.
But there were very few non-party
that whenever you talk to them would say like, listen, I heard everything that she said. I heard it. It breaks my heart. But
she's implicitly crazy. And
we're here to talk about a fucking no.
Well, that's the way I always heard it. Like, look,
like Lisa Murkowski was not out there fucking like saying she's a piece of that. No, it wasn't. She's a piece of shit.
No, it was.
Or that she doesn't know what she talks about.
It was like no, bro. It was like a version of concern trolling where it was like, look, something happened to her, okay, and that's terrible, and she's clearly dealing with it, and like she said, it affects your memory, and so we don't know if it was him. Where she's just latching on, and there's a, you know, why is it now? Blah, blah. And this is not how I feel. I cannot overemphasize that.
I think you're mischaracterizing.
I'm saying that's how I heard
of it.
That's how I heard it, dude.
But I don't think that they would be willing to talk publicly in the way that you're talking.
Well, maybe because I was hearing more of like, it was a more specific.
This is whenever I was Uber driving, so I was listening to a lot of NPR. Like I was listening to NPR though. Just that was what I liked having on the car, just because it's, you know, background noise. And so, you know, I would hear like the clips of what they were saying.
Yeah, but that's not the side I'm describing, dude.
But
I would say was generally they weren't fucking with Kavanaugh, right?
No, these people have voted for Kavanaugh. The people I'm describing. Well, just let me make the...
All right. Sorry.
What they would say is that, you know, this is all bad, but you know, fucking, we're here to talk about whether or not he'd be a good Supreme Court judge.
And the two have nothing to do with each other.
And just like...
Disagree.
It's not him, like that. That's a person that like hasn't existed. I remember that
the Ninth Circuit judge.
Yeah.
Just like Google that. If you think, I mean, this is.
But the counterpoint, the counterpoint, which is what I want to talk about.
Yeah.
The counterpoint to people being like, "Hey, can we just talk about the last fucking 30 years of his life, like where he was an actual adult, like who was able to make decisions?"
Mm-hmm.
And the counterpoint to that is, like, yeah, he's an adult right now and he's lying about what he did. Like, he's not, like, how, like, this forgiveness that you would like to assign to him, how am I going to give it to him when he's not even asking for it? Whenever he's not even granting
Well, in your
that
heart,
there's
you can
anything that
decide.
you could forgive him
You'll
for.
know when it happens, dude.
Yeah, no, you can make your own decisions, and you can be better than him.
For me,
You
it
can
just
be
kind of happened, dude.
You can
I
listen to
wasn't,
God
like,
more than he's listening to
It
God.
wasn't a decision I made. It was just like a truth that I decided not to shy from.
But I think it is like, before, like in order to like fully forgive and just like, just be like,
I believe that I can't say I fully,
like we'll never have it. It is not our goal to have a relationship with them. But like if we had a relationship with them, like of course.
Forgiveness doesn't look like that.
Yeah, no,
Like,
it's off the
yeah.
table. But to have something like that, you know what I mean? Like in order for that to be open as a possible path, there would have to be an agreement
like
of facts.
reconciliation, and you're back part of the like beloved community of people that I recognize as people, like whatever. I would say I recognize them as people, but to even begin to approach the status that you just described, you would have to be so fucking clear on the harm that you had done that you would never hold it against me if I never talk to you again. You know what I mean? Like if we're in a proverbial village, because I think that's a good way to think of forgiveness. Can you come back in the village? Because that's really the mechanism, like that's where this all developed, or tribe or whatever, and we're still dealing with it.
And right now you're saying you would not let him back in the village.
No, I think I would say like, yeah, but they can't live by me, and I'm not fucking talking to them, and they can't be around my kids.
Well, then you're kind of playing with like now you're imagining a larger village. Like if it's a village of like 2 families,
if
3
it's like
families.
An exile means death village, I would say let's not kill them. But it's like, I'm going to fucking kill myself if I have to act like I don't feel the way I do about what they did to me. And there's a way for that to change. But there's like 2 ways for it to go. One is I've in my heart forgiven them, and I'm going to proceed accordingly.
It sounds like whether or not you would let them back in the village is very context dependent on what sort of village we're speaking of exaczy.
No,
it seems like I could define villages where you don't let them back in.
No, I don't want to no. What I'm saying is, dude, I'm saying exactly what you're saying, I think, which is like in terms of like, all right, in my heart forgiveness doesn't mean much to the way they live their lives. It may, depending on what direction this podcast takes. But like, I'm never out to like be like, I think. I'm sure there are like animal parts of my heart that just want to like fucking harm them. You know what I mean? Like when I think like, oh, they might lose money, or they may be held legally liable, or people they love will think differently of them or less of them. It's like they probably should if they knew everything that they have done. And the only thing I want to be careful about saying is I don't believe that any of that renders them beyond the possibility of redemption. And that can mean, so to speak, they do get to come back in the village, but it's like to get to that kind of forgiveness where it's like we would have them on this podcast and fucking I don't even know, but we would. Obviously, that would be a dream. I think you asking the Q&As, that you've been thinking about.
I would love.
I think we could have some fun.
Yeah, one of my greatest
open invite.
Podcast broadcast dreams is I would love to just be able to directly ask them questions. But what you're talking about, would we have them on the podcast? Yes. Would it be like
it would be a calculated decision?
Talking about fucking like common ground? No.
No, it would be like yeah, of course, dude. Yeah, I fully agree, and I think that's how it would be.
Fucking Few Good Men is what it would be, dude.
Well, yeah, and the only option would be to do like the rejected.
I'm here to get them to admit they ordered the code red.
Yeah, no, I agree. It's like the only way you could short circuit that was if you moved our hearts with like such a deep show of emotion that you've gone through the anguish that you will go through when you come to the reckoning of how your actions have affected vulnerable people who were in your care. You can avoid it all you want. That's why you can't get out of bed if you can't. There can be a lot of things that can keep someone out of bed. Actually, I don't want to speculate about that, but I have stayed in bed, when I felt bad about what I was doing. So I can't help but wonder. And I know you don't mind. I don't mean to push back all the time, but all of that is to say, like, no, I don't think that kind of forgiveness is there. I don't think they should be allowed to run another school or ever be in charge of anybody vulnerable or anybody. And I think that the process of public accountability, or what may be, from their perspective, the process of being publicly held accountable, another way of saying that is the process by which people who suffered at your harm are engaging in the healing process by talking about, what they went through, how it affected them, and how they've learned, to proceed. And I think, at least in our case, like that's a good thing. And so that it's that more than like you're being publicly held accountable. And if but I think that would be their view, you know what I mean? So it's like, that's why you can't come back in the village. Cause it's like to be someone that I could say something other than like, they can live on the outskirts and not be around vulnerable people ever would require evidence of a literal like change of heart where it's like, I believe you. You've seen the errors. You've explained it. You've said, and naturally you're begging for forgiveness, and nobody's begged me. So, I mean, it's like, there's no evidence. I think the word I keep searching for
I can't recall anyone asking.
Yeah. Like contrition. There's been no evidence of contrition.
Yeah.
So it's like, that's fine, dude. I mean, even if there were, part of that contrition for it to be genuine, I think would necessarily have to include, if you feel like talking about it, please do.
I feel like everyone involved in the situation, like everyone who's like older than me, who wasn't a child, like looks back on the whole thing is like, yeah, looking to accomplish a goal, and I'd say we did pretty good.
To this day, you think that, dude?
I do.
Yeah.
And I don't know. Something that my wife and I talk about a lot is like, I have no appetite to like expend energy to like disrupt that. Like, me like talking about it here, like obviously, like I wish it wasn't that way, but like the work that is going to be required, like I'm not like, I don't want to like make people feel bad about things. I don't want to introduce like negative emotions to people's lives. Like
kids who went to Excel, you don't want them to feel bad about saying fuck those people. Yeah.
No. I'm talking about like I think that my folks look back and were like, thumbs up, nailed it. And
yeah.
And I don't feel like they have an
You are a delightful person.
I don't feel like they have an accurate understanding, but I don't understand what the benefit to me would be of them having an accurate understanding. I see how it would make their life worse. I don't really see how it would make my life better. Like, if they like are like, yeah, that was terrible. Like, is that gonna, do I get my life back? Like, do I get those years of my life? Are they returned to me? Like, no, not at all. No. So, like, what do I want out of this that I would receive from like ever an understanding, like from them feeling more guilt? I wouldn't receive anything. They would receive guilt. I don't see the fucking point. What's the upside? Like,
yeah, I mean, I go back and forth. It seems like many people, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but they come by that lesson after several attempts.
No, I never.
To their parents.
No.
Yeah, well, that's why I knew we had talked about this, and I wasn't quite sure on what your like history was. I think I don't blame anyone that tries to do that. You know what I mean? But I also think you probably come down on the right side of it, which is like, it's probably going to hurt you because unless, first of all, they sent you there. And nobody likes second guessing a decision except me. But also it's like, it's hard, dude. It sucks, or maybe it doesn't suck. I don't know. It's a cliche to say, but like the storytelling anecdote, none of that was like new wisdom. But I think one thing that we're about, or that I'm about, is like not making claims to like profound originality, but just like packaging things that I've heard and like that I've heard and have been helpful as they appear to be relevant, in the hopes that someone might hear it at the right time. Like your right time to learn stories for whatever reason was then. I'm pretty sure that exactly is something somebody said to me once when I was a toddler for too long with respect to my storytelling. But like, that's how you grow. And maybe I was aping Excel tactics there and just taking your inventory, but I don't think so. And there, it was interesting because I didn't say this while you were relating that story, but I was like, in my defense, it was probably like the 10th time you had done that.
Oh,
you know, and
no
I was
doubt.
like, enough already.
You were right.
Yeah, no, exactly. And
Full
it may have
agreement.
like we had a good relationship. I think at that point, I would not have said that to everybody, and I think you obviously took it well. But it's like not everybody would, and that's the kind of comment that could hurt somebody. Like I know people in my life who are adults who I just let them jabber, dude, and I like them for other reasons than their like pithy anecdotes. And, it is what it is. Sometimes I know the anecdotes, even the ins and outs that don't matter to a narrative. And it's frustrating, like, honestly. But, it is what it is. So I'm saying, like, that's kind of like the balance that I think everybody can understand is like sometimes you have to tell somebody something harsh to get them to become the better version of themselves they can be. And how do you draw that line? We're both parents to young kids. How do you draw the line between shielding them from the harsh world and shielding them from pain? Well, what if that's the kind of instructive pain that helps them? Eventually they're going to have to learn that the hot stove hurts, but obviously we're not holding their hands to the stove to teach them that. You know what I mean? And I think the dilemma there is each of us has a voice, some part of us, and this maybe you don't agree with me on that. And I mean, that is possible, but I think everybody has a small, maybe it's bigger in some people. I mean, it seems to be, but like a twinge or like a felt sense or something. I mean, there's like thousands of books about this where it's like, you shouldn't be doing this or you got to rethink this. And I think that is the difference is like, I hope that as a parent, I know those moments will happen. That's scary. But what should be scarier is the possibility that it will be so scary that I'm like, I'm done growing as a parent. Like who this kid gets today is who she gets. You know what I mean? So I kind of hope that I'm ready to look at, well, maybe that wasn't the right decision. Like maybe I grounded, my daughter is not even close to 12 and movie theaters, who knows what they'll look like when she is. But like maybe I didn't let her go to the movies because like,
I'm never grounding my kid.
Exactly. Like, you know what I mean? But then what if you're like, fuck, I should have grounded her that time. Like, no. Goddamn, like, I mean, exactly. So maybe we disagree, but what if you have the twinge, dude?
It's a level of control that people ought, like, obviously people can have that over each other, but they ought not to. It's a mistake to like attempt to grab that.
Yeah. But what if it's like, I won't let you go do a fun thing? Because I think in today's day and age, like when I was a kid or when we were kids, maybe, like grounding sucked because my day to day was being out of the house.
Yeah.
Like I was at a friend's house or I was out riding my bike or whatever. We both grew up in the 90s. Nowadays, I don't see that as much. I walk the dog. I mean, with quarantine, there are more kids out and about, but it
bothers me. Yeah, no, the sense that like I've seen kids walking around my neighborhood less than 10 times, like way less.
I mean, now I see them and it's like, I'm like,
oh,
this
like
is
I
good.
Was out
where
every day. Of course.
Yeah, and I hated when I lived downtown. I hate living in the like urban adult playground environments, dude, where it's like everyone is like 22 to 29. You know what I'm saying?
I don't have a problem with it.
Oh, it fucking sucks, dude.
Nah, it's fine.
It's
good. It's good energy.
No, dude, because the people look, these are my people, dude. I just said I live there. But eventually I was like, I need to see more of the spectrum of life.
It blows my mind. At a time that I didn't know you were in Dallas and we were living on the same street downtown.
Well, dude, I mean, that is wild.
It's insane.
And it had its benefits. I mean, we've talked to RIP to the Ross Capriottis. I mean, should we get that out of the way?
Absolutely. Yeah.
God damn. Did you ever have anything but a cheesesteak there?
Yeah, I'd have their meatball sometimes.
You would have the meatball at Capriottis?
Meatball is pretty good.
Okay. I'm getting a meatball today.
Nice.
Yeah, but I'll probably eat it tomorrow. You ever have the Bobby?
The more I'm thinking about it, I think I could go for meatball. Probably too late, huh?
Is it time to take a break and check? Is this episode one?
No. We're not close to time to take a break.
Okay.
We haven't even told any stories yet, dude.
Well, I know.
We came up with that whole thing about stories. We've been fucking bloviating about ideas for 45 minutes.
Is that where we're at?
I don't know.
We're doing good, dude.
I can't see it.
Okay. Damn, I forgot where we were going. But it may not be too late. Do you want me to check real quick? It's worth it, dude. You fucking uttered the thought. Just talk. Or, I don't know.
Wonderful.
We're good, dude. That's the kind of spontaneous drama that happens around here.
All right.
For the listener, they care, I'm sure.
Whether or not I get a meatball sub?
Yeah, that's affirmative.
Are these good ones?
That's amore. I mean, I keep getting them. They're
Okay.
the best ones I've found.
Okay.
Yeah, they're
I'm
pretty
excited.
good.
Yeah, but I don't know. Let's. I mean,
Just real quick, foreshadowing.
first story that comes to mind is just
I agree,
getting
but
there.
real quick.
Go ahead.
Are you about to say cheese steak shit?
No.
I just want to plant a seed, dude. When the listener finds out why cheesesteaks are significant to us,
I mean, I feel like
this becomes funnier.
I feel like we're months away from.
I agree.
Cheesesteaks.
So this becomes funnier.
Yeah, okay.
That's all I'm going to say.
Yeah.
Or wild. Maybe one of those things where you're like, well, that's abusive.
We got to work through these things in a
Yeah.
sequence, and that's pretty deep
Yeah,
in
the
there.
cheesesteak day. Whew. I'll be eating them till I die, probably from the cheesesteaks.
I mean,
And that's my grand theory of liability for Excel.
yeah.
It's heart disease caused by a compulsion. Anyway, I'm giving too much away. Let's go.
Yeah. So I don't know. I mean, I think it like makes narrative sense to talk about arriving there, right?
Agree.
What do you think is like? Where do you want me to start?
So I've been thinking about this, dude.
December 11th, 1986.
Oh,
Late at
I was
night.
going to say that's when
Mere
you were
5
born?
minutes from December 12th.
It's
Yeah.
actually how I'm writing this down. That's your birthday?
Yeah.
Shit, this pen might be out of ink. Okay. Well, I was thinking I know the very broad strokes, but there are at a minimum 3 people who will listen to this who know who I am, who may not know who you are.
Sure.
Right? Acknowledging that most people know the broad strokes who are listening to this today.
It doesn't matter.
Yeah, I think you should just why did you get sent to Excel? What were you like? I'm always interested in the day before Excel. What was that like? And then to the extent that it helps you explain what was going on, what brings a parent, because I liked you immediately. I mean, I remember your first day. I do. We'll get to it, but it was just a very interesting moment for me too. And part of that had
I can't wait to hear what you remember from it.
Well, yeah. And we got to tell the whole day. I mean, that's what I'm saying. Definitely.
But I can tell a version of this where it's going to take us 4 podcasts before we can get to that day.
So
do you want me to do that?
Just give the listener maybe broad strokes from your perspective. All right, you were smoking pot. How old were you?
I was 14.
14. What?
Probably around the time I was 12 is up until I was 12, I was pleasant, no conflicts. No conflicts with, authority of any kind. Get along with my parents, get along with my teachers, get along with camp counselors, etc.
Okay. You see me writing my notes, dude.
And then, just body chemistry changes as you hit puberty, kind of felt different. Or, I kind of see it as, and again here, there's a long story and I'm not even touching the long story yet.
Yeah. I don't think that's the time for it, but just I think some people.
I want to tell the
maybe I don't
the
mean to say
action-packed 3 days prior to arrival. I want to tell all that. I want to do that today.
So just give us the preamble to get us there, then.
Okay.
Because this, I think I've heard it, but it's
you have.
That doesn't always mean.
Yeah. But yeah. So had conflicts. Just got a lot of arguing with teachers, a lot of arguing with parents.
So you're a freshman in high school?
Teachers. Yeah. I mean, this started in 6th grade, but yeah, when I'm a freshman in high school, this has been going on for a while. I hit the high school who have a different attitude about this. I did not view my middle school as tolerant of this sort of behavior, but once you hit the high school, you're the high school, all the people who were in charge of discipline at the high school very much had their self-identity wrapped up in those fucking pussies at the middle school. They don't even know how to fuck up these kids.
Interesting. These kids are fucking jerks when they come in here because they're softly raised.
But we gotta,
So we actually have to go hard.
Yeah.
Wow.
Which
they talked about that.
I would say that's more just what I intuited based on their actions. They did not talk about it. I mean, the big thing is they didn't talk that much at all.
Oh, yeah,
at middle school, they would never agree with you, but you would come in, they'd be like, all right, what happened? At high school, it was not what happened.
How many kids are at this high
Here's
school?
the punishment. I don't know exactly. because the way that Plano does high schools is complicated.
Yeah, help the
and,
listener in late 90s or whatever, early 2000s. Because I live here and don't fully know. I don't live in Plano, but I don't. There's two high schools?
I do believe legitimately there's 3 in Plano.
Okay.
That it is driven by, like, I think that the first question they're asking when attempting to design the high schools is what is a good design that is going to guarantee us competitive football teams?
Really?
Absolutely.
Is that another intuited, inference from their behavior?
I don't watch school board meetings, but I think that they're...
You don't?
No. Certainly not Plano ones.
That makes sense.
But like...
Does DISD air theirs? That seems like something you would watch.
Of course. Yeah, no, I've seen like some of a school board meeting before in my life for DISD,
Okay.
but like not enough to like... I've not watched Plano ones where they're explaining why. Like, that doesn't come up in meetings.
I got you. Yeah. No, there could be a fucking article. I don't fucking know.
But...
if there was, you would have read it.
Yeah.
You have that book. You know the one.
Which one?
The one that you have to buy on eBay about Dallas.
The Accommodation, yeah.
So I suppose. I didn't pony up.
I do.
It's by the guy.
Jim Shoots.
Yeah, that's how it shoots.
Mm-hmm.
I've never heard it said aloud, but I know the name, obviously.
People often struggle with it, yeah. It's Shoots. That's the correct pronunciation.
I mean, people don't really discuss things that they read as much, I think.
We should get back into
Except
it.
online.
I mean, COVID's hurting.
The culture of letters is blooming. I guess that's a good thing.
Yeah.
Anyway, go. Sorry, bro. So the 3. Okay. So you're 12, wilding out, but in retrospect, you got away with a lot of middle school.
So my graduating class at Plano would be I always get the comma wrong. I'm pretty sure it's 1,500. Yeah, it's 1,500.
Okay, so
My
that's about
senior-
6,000 kids.
But that was
Or is it-
was spread across a couple different schools at the point that I'm a freshman. You go to one school for freshman and sophomore. You go to a different school for junior and senior.
I never went to a school like that, but that seems for some reason like fucked up more.
The junior and it's so that the football team is the junior and senior. So you've got like a bunch of old like
seasoned.
You would have
dogs.
to have fucking 14-year-olds in these classrooms if you had freshman, sophomore, junior, senior. But we can pull a football team from a high school that's like 3,000 kids on a campus, all of whom are above the age of 16. Like, that's going to be a pretty fucking good football team.
Okay, again, not to derail, not to be combative.
Go ahead.
I don't get the math here because if a 14-year-old was good enough to be on the team,
They'll put him on the team.
Right. And if he's not, he'll be on the freshman team.
But if you had so let's say, just imagine the counterexample. I think that'll illuminate what's going on here. They've got let's say there was 3,000 kids at the Plano East Senior High. That's where I would have gone. 3,000 at Plano, 3,000 at Plano West. You got 9,000 kids above the age of 16 that you want to educate. If you made for those 9,000 kids 13 schools, that would still give you an average class size that's pretty normal, graduating class size.
Sure. I mean, you wouldn't be like, well, it's small.
Yeah.
And
each kid would get good amount of individual attention. You could kind of have more less institutional environments, it's still institutional, it's still school.
Sure.
But then the chances that there are going to be 22 peak performance athletes amongst those, a couple hundred students are lower than the chances of if we can get, 3,000 in one place and just pick the best 22 out of these 3,000.
And obviously increased probability if the floor is 16 years old.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
That's the kind of arbitrage we do around here.
So, I arrive at the high school, things go worse. So the week before, the story of me getting sent to Excel, you can define it a lot of ways because the week that they toured was a very tumultuous week. It's not like they just had the tour on the schedule and were like, well, we were planning to do this. No, it was He's really fucking, bothering us.
So what was it,
It's all, both of them are getting caught with weed
so there were inciting incidents where you can look at discrete things that happen.
where like a thing happens, like, and then it's all just the fucking thing is out of the box.
Okay.
And chaos is reigning for a couple weeks.
It's like, all right, we're now in a new mode where it's like something's got to change.
Yeah, new chapters obviously being started. Like
And
the war is moving to a different, like the degree is ratcheting it up.
Did you feel like you were at war?
100%.
With whom?
My parents.
Okay.
I hated them.
Really?
Every bit of my being, like,
was that sudden at 12?
If they had like gotten into a car accident, I would have been like, finally, I'm free.
Wow.
That would have been my only emotion as a 14-year-old.
Free of what?
Which, like, is the kind of stuff that makes me sound like a psycho, but like maybe I was a psycho then.
Dude,
I
was sitting here thinking, dude, do not say wow after he says this, because the bravery.
I know how it looks.
No, bro,
Yeah.
to say that publicly, even someone who was like,
I mean, it's the truth.
lower
We're here to tell the
inhibition
truth.
like you.
Like,
Yeah.
in order for you people to be able to understand the thing that I want you to understand, you have to understand every aspect of it and see how all of it works. And the truth is that I
applaud your
fucking
honesty.
hated those people and would have done if like things bad happened, like for like, if my actions caused them to like experience stress, it was like, well, good, you shouldn't have been fucking with me. Like, that's the only thing I felt.
What do you think that was about?
I mean, I really, like, it's definitely that I need my own control. And like, I did not feel like I was given space to kind of like live my life. Not like the life you want me to have, but my life.
Yeah.
And, I mean, that you only get one. It's pretty fucking important to me.
Sure.
There's a lot of that. There's a lot of like, I'm just a different kind of person than the rest of my family. Like, really, it's puzzling to me because I mean, like, we share some similarities, but like fundamentally, we are different kinds of people. Like, I don't have like an advanced understanding of like Myers-Briggs stuff, but I would assume that some of that would capture it.
Yeah, I haven't met your family unless I was one of the kids that toured him, but I don't know if I was. May have been.
Yeah.
Just if you ever think about the stuff I said about forgiveness, dude, just remember that, dude.
Yeah, no, dude. I'm
laughing because I'm nervous because I do still feel bad, and I think that's why I talk about the forgiveness shit. Because even as a kid, I feel like I was made to be complicit in things that I still carry, dude, which fucking sucks, dude. And that includes giving kids' parents tours and learning how to be the thing that the school accused us of being, which was emotionally manipulative. Well, none of us wanted to get sent there, and we all did. So ultimately, we were not the master manipulators. The people who ran the school were pretty fucking good, though. And by then, I learned a lot from them, and it was my ass. Like, if a bunch of people didn't send their kids after I toured them, it was like not just going to be like put someone else on the tours, dude, because they knew that I was a potential asset in that regard. I didn't start out wanting tours, dude. I basically like got told I had been a wallflower too much, and they knew I could do more for them than I let on. And this was before you got there.
Yeah.
But I got like loaded up with we don't need to get into all that today, but my point is definitely I think there's two things going on when I'm like, no, ultimately it's all for the good. People deserve forgiveness. Is first of all, I'm trying not to kill myself. So like I really would like, I prefer a world where like God is working to the ultimate good, even if I don't understand it. And it's like, I do believe that, but I also like recognize that is like, it's hard to not like to live if you don't, for me. I think when people say the opposite is like, if you press them, it shuts down pretty quick because they don't often think about what that would actually mean. But I don't want to get into all that. But I think another part of it is way more acutely self-serving. And it also is with like making light of the scab situation, dude. Because although I was in many ways very lucky to like learn how to be a lawyer, so to speak, from people who were so good at it that, although I would not always make the same choices that they were not in a position. It sucks and is risky and is like, things aren't going well if as a lawyer you're in a position where you're constantly making ethically great decisions. Like, you may sit here outside of that framework and question whether the entire approach to decision making in the like, study of legal ethics or the regulation of it, there's a case to be made that it has, like we've talked about, blind spots that let you compartmentalize out very important things. But so I'm not saying that never happened, like it's a system, but there was very little like, yo, take the bag money to somebody, or you know what I mean? Like, delete all these emails. I mean, I say very little. There was literally none. And if there had been any, I would have said no, but I never got the chance to be to push back like that, because it was like, we were not in the position to have to make those kinds of decisions. So it's not like I feel bad about stuff like that. But when managers are people too. And that in today's day and age really is true. Like, especially like middle management, so to speak, is almost every manager now, just because the scale of inequality in power is so insane. I mean, I know politics is important. We're not going to get into politics for many reasons, like the way we have before. But I think, again, like kind of an underlooked aspect, people have made this case, but you don't see it like practically recognized in the discourse, I think, to an appropriate degree, is that like, especially the large corporations, I don't say this to demonize them, they are the more powerful governments, like in terms of how life goes, especially in the United States, but kind of leads for the world. Like, that's why even I know I've unsubscribed from every fucking HR, employment law listserv. I owe Law 360 $700 because I tried to subscribe to it and I just have never paid. Like, I'm not seeking out that news, but I know that Coca-Cola had diversity training recently, and like people are mad at it.
Yeah.
Like, more than I recall people being mad about Trump repealing the executive order, which only affected, employees of federal contractors, right? Like he said no more funding for cultural Marxism, which means, it's a dog whistle for somebody. You know what I mean? But I feel like the Coca-Cola was a bigger deal. Appropriately, I'm in support of it. I haven't seen the training, but I suspect there's nothing objectionable in it from my perspective. I think I would support what's in the training. But I think that the discussion over the people who are anti-diversity, demonstrates that they are kind of intuiting that these corporations are as powerful as governments in many ways. That's why it does matter. Like when Coca-Cola has a diversity training, they're correct. Like, they're, I think, wrong about being upset by it. But I think like corporation as the more powerful government and as an entity that is in practical, they may not be in Congress negotiating the way Zuckerberg did. And you're a fucking idiot if you do. I mean, after seeing the way Zuckerberg fared, but like behaviorally, they are negotiating with governments by hiring lawyers who read the regulations to tell them where they can be, what's gray and what's not. And then where it's gray, you're going to push it to the way you want it to be. You know what I mean? That's what I mean, like behavioral negotiation. Anyway, I don't fucking know how I got started on this, but I just think corporations as governments is an idea that I want to put out there. And let's be quiet, dude. Oh, I just want to say while I'm fucking jabbering, the only question I wrote was when you said at 12 you had no conflicts, you got along with everybody, and you listed every authority figure that a 12-year-old could be subject to. Uh-huh. My question was, did you have any inner conflicts about that, and how did you feel about that? But I think you were starting to answer it, so maybe that can get us back on track. And that's, dude, I don't know how I got from this, so let me end it with this. I think it's very brave to speak honestly about your relationship with your parents and how you felt. And I think it's so common, and that scares parents too. Because this is a kid. I mean, my daughter right now, like seeing her smile when I get in a room, the idea that she might be like, "Fuck you, Dad, I hate you." Like,
I think about it. I like, this is always how the conversation goes. Whenever I tell someone, like, whatever, they're like, "Oh, where'd you go to high school?" Is I explain it, and they were like, "So what'd you do? Like, how many times you smoke weed?" And like I remember, like within my first couple months of going to Excel, I remember like this experience of it was one of my school books. It was my English book. They always had the book covers on them in paper, and like I was just
I had completely forgotten the entire task of covering your books.
Yeah.
That's
you had to
funny,
cover your
dude.
books.
Did we do that at Excel? We did, didn't we?
We did, absolutely. And the fucking it was like the company that made the book covers. Whenever we would get the one, It was I don't remember if it was Plano or Richardson, but it was where I lived.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I mean, like I lived in Richardson. I went to Plano schools.
Did the company say plain brown wrapper, or was that like a shopping bag that people would use to cover their books?
Sometimes we would just get like bags, and sometimes we would get like a printed like book cover.
From a company like those, and
and it would say like where I was from on it. So I was always like, hell yeah, represent. But so I just like opened up the inside cover and just made like just in my head was going through every single time I did drugs and would like mark down a thing for it, like little hash. So the kind of thing where like, you know, if they had been able to like give me truth serum and find out what I was doing, would have been in so much trouble.
Okay.
But I think this is the first time I've ever like verbalized that this is what I was doing. Certainly to a former student.
Interesting.
That I was sitting there counting the number of times that I had done drugs and thinking about each of them. And the count that I had at that time was 17.
17 times doing drugs when you got sent to Excel.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's have this conversation real quick.
Yeah.
What do we mean by drugs?
So predominantly smoking pot. There was a friend of mine who was prescribed medication. It's a thing called Dexedrine. You ever heard of Dexedrine?
Yeah, I think what you're about to describe, I literally same experience. Well, yeah, same beginning.
He didn't like taking it, so he would just give it to me.
Did you take it a lot?
Save it up.
Okay.
I mean,
did it once.
I think that accounted for. I think I did it twice.
Okay.
And it's an upper. I've never decided to get back into it, but like it's kind of tight.
Yeah, I mean they still give it to kids, right? Is it ADD?
Yeah. I mean, you know that whole family of ADD. I mean, I know a lot of people that take a lot of Ritalin.
For sure.
And you know, I've not, like I said, I haven't gotten into it after. But
it fucks me up when I hear Dexedrine in particular because it like I don't know if it's like I'm accustomed to like I know these drugs are powerful, as we'll get into, and I know it takes time for them to come out. They're not iPhones. But when you see something from like the 1950s and it's like talking about some crazy person what they would call, obviously I feel very comfortable using that word. I don't mean to like suggest that I'm pulling back the word crazy, although I understand why it offends some people. Mm-hmm. If it offends you, you either, I am one of you or I'm not interested in your opinion. If you are not in the category, it's not important to me that you feel good about how I describe it. But anyway,
people in a group can talk about a group a different way than people out of the group. You're identifying as in the group.
I think that's right. I think that's what we're doing here. Yeah, for sure. But it just fucks me up because it's like the tone is like, they were on all these crazy drugs that we don't do anymore. Like this is fucked up. We used to give Thorazine, but that's kind of the tone. So they're listing all of these old drugs. And I don't know what the old, I don't have them memorized, but it's like they'll throw Dexedrine in there, and I'm like,
oh yeah,
isn't that still around? Like it feels like we should be past that at this point.
Give it a go. It's not sedating anyone.
Well, but can it be the case? I think. I mean. Some people report that it helps them focus, right? That has to be true.
Yeah, I mean that's the Ritalin. I don't recall. I remember being pretty fucking jumping from topic to, but I mean, we're talking about one afternoon in 2001. We're in 2021 now. It was literally 20 years ago. Don't trust me on it.
Yeah. And we're doing jumping from topic to topic ourselves.
Indeed.
Yeah. All right, so you smoked weed.
There was one time that I was smoking with a guy, and he looked around to all the rest of us 14-year-olds. He was also 14 or younger or whatever, and was like, hey, this bowl, before I packed it, I sprinkled a little bit of cocaine.
Oh, shit, dude.
And
fuck.
0% chance that he was telling the truth. That was a full fabrication. Like, just knowing him, he was just the kind of guy that'd be like, yeah, my family's got a Lamborghini. Like,
yeah.
No offense, dude. You live in a duplex. We all know what's up.
Oh, that sucks, dude. Yeah. I was gonna say he kind of gave himself away if he actually did say like, before I packed this ball, I put in cocaine because
Yeah, I
why
might
would you
have said
put
it
it at
wrong.
the bottom?
Yeah, yeah. You know, you're right.
You know, like it's
Yeah.
like, okay, that's why you can't see it. It's there though.
Yeah. But yeah, so I done drugs 17 times, and so whenever people are like, always, I've never told someone and then be like, your folks probably made the right call, honestly. Which, like, that'd be so fucked up, and like I can't imagine how I would react. But
Yeah.
like everyone's always like, well, that's obviously an overreaction, and it is. They're right.
17. When did you start smoking
But-
pot?
It's probably about a year.
So when you were like 8th grade?
Yeah, it was in 8th grade.
Eighth-
Yeah.
okay,
I was in middle
okay,
school. Yeah,
okay.
I can tell
Summer
that story
before
if
high
you
school?
want.
Yeah. First time smoking pot story?
Yeah.
Oh my God, dude. My grin is betraying me. It's a fond memory. But
You want to tell yours?
No. I want to hear yours. I eventually will, I'm sure, tell
I
mine
hope
one
to.
way or another.
Yeah.
I don't know how we're doing on time. We're already on the... No.
Time's a construct.
Plus, I'm not sure how to fucking approach one aspect of it. I need some... Maybe when we do take some sort of break, I'll get your guidance on it.
So I was, like I said, arguing constantly with teachers. And there was one point that, like, they decided that the regular thing of whenever I talked up, they would send me to the disciplinarian. They were like, we're just on a hamster wheel. This is not productive.
That's
Like,
what the school said.
the teachers collectively. Like the way that the structure was that, like, there was, one class would be taught by, so, like there was more than one English teacher, right? Like a
Sure.
course.
Yeah.
But the kids, they had it set up so that each set of kids would like share a set of subject teachers. So if you were in one English class, that meant that you were in a specific science class, which meant you were in a specific history class, so that the teachers would be able to, like, one group of teachers could get together and be like, well, we all teach this kid. 100% of us do.
Yeah.
So like, how do we think he's doing?
Yeah.
And like, whenever they got to me, it's like, he's doing bad. So we're going to pull in, like, it was a parent teacher conference, but it wasn't just one teacher. It was all of them.
Which was unusual.
It was unusual.
It's like a crisis.
I don't recall anyone else having this sort of treatment.
Okay.
I mean, I'm sure they did. I just don't recall it.
Okay.
But like, that's how rare it was.
No one that year, to your recollection, besides you.
Yeah. I mean, I don't
Okay.
remember this happening at the school aside from, but I'm not saying I was the worst kid. I'm just saying it's sufficiently rare that, like, if it was happening all the time, of course I would remember it.
So it's interesting, just to think about, again, not to make everybody's case for them, you know what I mean? But it's like, since you are making yours and I'm sitting here thinking about it, and obviously I don't think it was the right thing to really send anyone there, But
Agreed.
it's like easier to see for some people than others. And that's what we were saying, like with some parents, and actually like what you just said, we'll get the 7-year-old back. It's like, if the choice is the 7-year-old or fuck you, dad, and like much worse, and maybe failing out of school.
That's what I'm here to explain. That's what I'm trying to demonstrate.
Okay. Yeah.
Because I started out by saying everyone tells me, like, well, obviously they overreacted, and I agree and I don't agree.
Yeah.
Like
I didn't know that.
the
That's what I was
thing-
saying. It sounds like it with the 17 drugs.
the thing that they did, like, was an extreme measure. As to whether or not the situation they were in was tenable and like they should have just put up with it, no, not
Right.
at all.
Okay.
It was a fucking disaster. It was a crisis for all of us. It was hell. It was war every day. They had to do something.
Did you?
I just think that the thing they did was like fucking ant with a sledgehammer.
Sure. Yeah. That's a good way of putting it. It kind of took me aback. Did
It's Jay-Z.
we kill you, motherfucking name?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Don't make me do it to you, Dunny, because I'll overdo it. So you won't confuse it with just rap music.
Keep going, dude.
I mean, it's a
And
good
it's
song.
time for the hook, I guess. At
It's a
that,
good song.
who do you think won that beef?
I
Or
mean,
do you-
Jay-Z, obviously.
Is it obvious? I guess. Well,
One of them is the biggest rapper in the world. The other one's a guy who,
well,
it's a one album every 10-year average. And I mean, like, one was Illmatic, but like the other one,
Well, I remember that line in the Takeover, which was an incredible line. I remember I first heard that song at Excel on Kazaa downloads.
No way.
Yeah, dude. I was like,
Goddamn.
oh shit, dude. I fucking first heard Ether too. Because, okay, for the listener, now's as good a time as any. I alluded earlier to getting fired. I mean, we'll get into details with this. And I guess I've alluded to, some neurodivergence and maybe emotional divergence at times. So, dude, it was hard. It sucked, even though I didn't really want to be there at that point, or at least in that capacity. I wanted it to be more of a conversation than it was. And I feel like the way I was treated brought back a ton of Excel issues. But then it's like, these people made serious mistakes. I mean, to me, honestly, what I believe, because I know very little, in my opinion, about what actually happened. And that's another reason why I'm a little hesitant to start trashing a bunch of people. You know what I mean? Even though they fucking fired me, dude. And maybe it's like Excel conditioned me, to think that. So anyway, we could talk about this at length, but all of that is to say, while I was figuring out how I felt about that, as I've done at really historically very stressful times in my life, for various reasons, I'm obviously a huge fan of music. And so I would start writing about it, and, I can write raps. So I would start writing raps about that. And I did write and record basically an entire album that told the story of a guy who went through, some similar stuff. It departed at times, but for the 10 people watching this who know me, I've told you about that. Some of you have heard it and are now like, when is it coming out? Because it is, for what I just described, the best version of that, I would say, that I was capable of doing. So everyone was pretty happy that it wasn't like more of an embarrassment than just doing the thing I just described. Like, it wasn't any more embarrassing than it had to be. And it had moments, I think, when people were like, I fucked with that. So I did that was very encouraging. As you know.
like the album.
Yeah, no, I appreciate especially your feedback, because you also told me areas where I could improve, but also many where you were enthusiastic.
Every album I've heard could be better.
Exactly, dude. But that feedback was so crucial to me to keep going. And that brings me to my point. For those 10 people, they're like, when's that coming out? And it's like, there's nothing I say on there that I can't say. I'm not worried about that. But it's like, first of all, after the second song that I wrote about getting fired, I was like, this is not interesting anymore, because I got it out. And so it became much more about these meta issues. And then it's like, how do you even tell? This is a more appropriate medium, I think. It's more satisfying to me to engage in it this way.
I think it works.
Well, it's what we've been doing for the past year. But that also included talking about the music stuff. And, so anyway, I don't know. Oh, we were just talking about Jay-Z and Nas. So for those 10 people, music is coming out. And maybe some of those early songs, especially, obviously, we all know about Uncle Jesse.
Yeah.
The people who did hear it.
A true banger.
I think so. And so it probably will come out. But really what I'm grateful for is that began a process where I did like making the music, so I just kept doing it. I made another album after, we went to the lake and kind of had our big run through of what the fuck happened to us and what should we do from here. And I made that album in 3 days. I just had a lot to say. I was in a good state to get it out. And it was satisfying for me. Wrote a song about going to Excel. But I was like, this is maybe TC, I'll probably play it for you at some point. But it's it still isn't right, dude. It wasn't the right medium. I think this is the right medium. But
good.
During that process, I still liked making music. So There is an album coming out. We're going to fucking get to that. TC is helping me he's the creative director and the president and management. And I mean, not that kind of management, but I don't know what else you are. But anyway, we got some good stuff down the pike. So, but those of you waiting with bated breath to hear about the scandal are just going to have to wait a little bit more. And I think, we'll tell that story in the right way when it's time. So thanks for letting me have the space to say that real quick. I feel like that's now out of the way.
Absolutely.
We'll get to that at the
So I was in 8th grade and they had the full teacher parent conference.
Okay.
Full squad.
Okay.
Whole squad.
So
here.
you're definitely the worst kid in your grade.
I'm saying I don't want to like have that like. No, I mean, like there's different stuff. I mean, like
From the teacher's perspective.
the part of Plano that I like, people who live in Dallas have an idea of Plano, and East Plano does not fit that idea.
What idea?
Just there's a lot of like kids who are like fucking in the shit.
But why didn't they get the full court parent teacher conference?
I'm not saying they didn't. I'm just saying I don't remember one.
Oh, okay. I thought it was like you were saying like basically you should assume only one kid got it and it was you.
No.
Oh, my bad.
You should not
Okay.
assume that.
Okay.
You should just. I'm just trying to demonstrate that they are somewhat rare.
Okay. Then you're not the worst kid in your grade.
I would agree.
Okay, got it. Okay.
But I'm on the list. Got to be talked about.
Sure.
Sure.
What's to be done about this TC Fleming?
So,
just being an adult talking about a 14-year-old that way is hilarious to me. For that to be part of somebody's life, to be like, convene the committee.
Yeah.
And it's like, I get it if it's like a treatment plan of professionals or whatever.
Got to do it.
I know.
Glad someone's trying to do
to
it.
Be like,
wish they do it with
so
lighter
we're all
touch.
agreed.
But
TC fucking sucks, right? And they all did.
Yeah.
Like,
Oh,
I
yeah.
mean, I'm not trying to rub it in because obviously plenty of similar committees thought the same about me.
like some of them could see the spark,
No,
like,
how could they not?
But
obviously.
I mean, some people didn't. You know that.
Yeah. Well, some people confused the spark because they were so far
spark
away from the
scares
light.
them.
Yeah. That it's like the light looks dark to you when you're that far away from it. Yeah,
Yes.
for sure.
Yeah. But so we had that whole thing, and I had my first period class in 8th grade was English, and I'm not a morning person, so like to be honest, I was not like up and active enough to fuck with anyone in that class.
Okay.
Like I didn't cause problems because like I just didn't say anything. Like I just sat in the back, which I think is like what they want from kids, right? They want everyone to just shut the fuck up, like let us fucking say this shit, right? Tell you about English.
So
It seemed like that's what they wanted at the time. And honestly, in that English class, I gave it to them. Like not like because it's some great thing by me, but just like I'm not awake yet.
Y'all
and-
motherfuckers are lucky.
Yeah. Fucking talk to the math teacher if you don't believe me.
Right. Okay. Okay. Yeah. You better hope you don't have an afternoon class with me next semester.
Yeah.
Okay.
But so after this like full squad meeting, the English teacher who I really did not fuck with was like, well, if this is how you're gonna be. Like basically, I think that she heard like how I was treating like her colleagues, and was like,
Don't even fucking try it.
This got to change, Like
wait. So you? Oh, I thought you meant you didn't fuck with her. Like I don't fuck with you. Like
No.
I don't fuck with her.
No,
You
like
meant
I
you
don't
didn't-
cause her problems.
Oh, okay. Then I once again got you completely wrong. So
I didn't cause her problems, but she was like, I hear about all these other problems you're causing, and like from then on, she treated me differently.
Oh.
Like where she was like, if you want to be a problem kid, you can be a problem kid.
See, I feel like that's management scabbing, dude. Kind of. Being, you know what I mean? Like whatever management's version of it is being like, yo, I'm with them, dude. You fuck with them, fuck you. You're one of the bad kids now. It's, you know what I mean? Like they're not scabbing, but they're like outgrouping a child.
Yeah, no,
that's fucked up, dude. Why are you a teacher?
But the primary way that she manifested that was she was like, I'm moving your desk to like the problem area. Like all the kids that like just won't shut up and like whatever in this class,
dude.
Like I'm putting you with them
to
so
desk
that
Con Air, dude.
Yeah. Take from this what you will. A fact that like is important to this story, and like I don't know, it's the kind of thing where like if I talk about this indelicately, it could go bad for me. However, like I told the truth about me being a fucking hating my parents and being like a soulless, fucking like
I wouldn't say
whatever.
that, and I would, but go on.
But like the kids that she like identified as the problems, they were Mexican.
The kids that the English teach, so it was you and Mexican kids.
When she was like, I'm going to fucking discipline you and like get you in line, it was like, I'm going to put you with the other kids I don't like. And they were all Mexican.
Okay. And for me, as well as for the listener, This is okay. You're in Plano in high school,
And I'm
at this point?
I'm in like to the extent that Plano has a Mexican part, which it does.
This is what I'm dancing around, dude. I have no idea.
I am in the Mexican part. That's what I'm trying to say about East Plano. East
Okay,
Plano
okay.
is like, you know,
Yeah, got it.
yeah. Like, you know, the areas around downtown. I went to Mendenhall Elementary, all the homes around Mendenhall Elementary, like, you know, go and take a look, you know, whatever.
Okay.
And I mean, I bet that it's like nicer now, you know, because
Yeah, this is in the 90s.
yeah.
Things change.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Dude, I briefly went to Princeton High School, and similar, you hear that and it's like, shit, that must be like Princeton University Junior. And it's like, you could still get fucked up before 7 a.m. Like, you know, at least in the 90s. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like, I mean, anyway.
So I'm sitting with these kids, right? And I think it was the summer before I had seen Half Baked, a seminal film. I hope we can all agree.
For sure.
And so between that and like various other things, like I thought I had received the message that marijuana is funny.
It
Right?
remains to this day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm in this area with the bad kids, you know,
Sure.
quote unquote. And so I start like, you know, talking to them more.
Why wouldn't you?
Yeah, of course. And there's one kid who like I liked him. Like he was funny. Like
Dude,
we
the bad kids are
got
fucking
each
fun as
other,
shit,
of
dude.
course. Yeah. And so we had to like exchange papers to like edit or whatever, you know?
Okay.
And then you had to write on the paper like who edited it, right?
Okay. Sure.
So whenever I signed my name on his paper, I was like TC Pothead Fleming. Like that was in
Hold
my
on.
mind
We need to
like
take
hilarious.
For the listener, we just took a break because I laughed so hard. We
Yeah,
fucked
sure.
the EQ up.
Yeah.
'Cause- yeah, that's good
you know,
shit, man.
Fucking top level 14-year-old, you know, like
Dude.
is it even a joke? Like
I mean, you were a pothead.
what is the joke? Well, I wasn't then. I'm telling you the first time I did pot. I had not done pot a single time before that.
Oh, shit.
But I'd seen Half Baked, so like I thought that he would like be impressed by this.
I bought a High Times magazine before I ever smoked pot.
There you go.
Yeah.
So you get it. Like
I've
it's-
always been a fan of weed culture.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
still am to this day.
It was a way where I thought other people would see me as cool if I like, you know,
You
did
were right.
these things.
I see you as cooler sitting here
Yeah.
hearing about this.
Yeah.
Definitely.
And so he saw the paper. He's like, "Oh, you smoke pot?"
Fuck yeah.
And I was like, I don't remember what I said. I mean, like it wasn't a
May have
yes and
lied?
it wasn't a no.
Oh,
I did
okay,
not
okay,
because
okay.
I don't. I mean, to this day, I don't lie. Like I that's like the autistic part of my brain. Like that's a black and white. Like I don't. I mean, like
You find that you have trouble managing when you have been dishonest? Like the
Yeah.
stress that it,
yeah, don't like it. Not worth
Yeah.
fucking with. Don't do it. I don't do it.
Yeah.
And I mean, like even at Excel, like it was a hardcore thing where I was like, I will not lie. Like if we break the rules, I'm not going to run and tell staff. But if staff ever asks me directly what happened whenever you were in there, I will tell them the truth.
Well, yeah, and I will just jump in real quick. For me, I mean, I told lies to the staff where I could, but I largely reached the same conclusion as you because they were so. I don't know if it was like the glimmer or aura of authority and thinking that they had greater powers than they did or do. But they were good enough at convincing people who were very sophisticated in other aspects of their lives to fork over a lot of money and their children for tactics that when you hear about them are, you know, not worth much.
They had an intuitive understanding of the animal parts of your brain that is truly impressive.
And they trusted their own instincts, perhaps too much in many ways. But
They had some clear talents.
well, yeah, they were hard to lie to. is what I'm saying.
There are ways in which that these people were exceptional, and like there are
sure.
very other few people on earth like them.
Absolutely. And so all I
And
would-
like they're also idiots.
morons.
Yeah.
Completely. Yes, definitely. Dude, one time we were at Walmart and X-Men had just come out.
Uh-huh.
And a kid, we were like, dude, going to Walmart was you were riding pretty high.
Big fucking deal.
If you
Yeah.
were at Walmart on a shopping trip. And a kid was there for his first one, and he was a bad kid. I was shadowing him. We'll eventually explain what that means. But basically, I'd been there a while. I was kind of responsible for him.
Mentoring him.
Yeah. ish.
Doesn't capture it, but
Yeah, well, I mean, we'll get there. But all I'm saying is
of the words in the average listener's lexicon, that's the one that we can, come closest.
Sure. But there's
Sorry,
more to it.
go ahead.
But yeah.
X-Men.
But my point is he was pushing it, dude, because he was riding high because it was his first one. And he was getting out of trouble.
Act like it's not your first one, dude.
Exactly. And so he saw, and we had been talking about X-Men, and one of the teachers had actually seen it and came back. And this was something that kind of pissed me off at the time and still does. No, it upsets me, dude. I mean, he was cool. You probably already know who I'm talking about. I mean, I love X-Men. We can change the camera to reveal that. But, so he basically came in and flexed because he was like, I already knew it was coming out.
Staff members would do that.
Yeah, he'd be like, y'all don't know nothing about it. It was so good. It was so sick. I mean, no way he said it was sick.
It was pretty good.
But of course, yeah. And so it's not like it was like inappropriate for the school. One of the things I eventually will like talk about at length is I'm really grateful for how much culture came into the school. Because when I hear about other people's experiences at similar schools, they had nothing like that. Like we watch movies every weekend.
It's weird because they did like.
I think it was easy.
But I mean, like they were keenly interested on controlling your culture.
Oh, for sure, of course.
But like also they were uncultured themselves, so there was like giant blind spots.
And I was thinking about this after we were talking last week about how Jamie, would come in and be like, whatever movie she watched, no matter how stupid it was.
Remember the Titans was
which not stupid, but and nor is the Skulls. But Pay It Forward, you got to work to make that one not stupid. Yeah, she made us do that work, dude. Yeah. And that's what I was thinking, dude. She kind of like, a big theme we have is like when power dynamics allow people to reduce, the people under their wing or whatever to objects or to like extensions of themselves rather than helping them flourish, or like getting what they can out of them rather than like having a reciprocal relationship among equals. God fucking forbid. You know what I mean? Fuck, I'm doing it again. I had a really good point here. Oh yeah. She basically treated us like for sure she doesn't do this because there's no evidence that she knows enough. Like she's not a typer. That will eventually make sense. But the thought of her pulling up YouTube and doing this is funny. But she was doing this like the people who see movies and are like, the Skulls ending explained. Like, why did Pacey do that? Or like, So it's like any movie that was like sticking with her, where you're like, like when you saw Silence recently, you were like, that guy's full of shit. I'm like, I don't think he was that full of shit. Or maybe he was. Like that kind of stuff rather than like, wow, what a great film. I'm still thinking about these important questions. Like, and she's just like,
no, it's just like, what
y'all
did
write
happen?
papers. Yeah, y'all don't know nothing about the Skulls. Like, you need to pay it forward. Y'all all need to pay it forward. Like, explain to me, why this character did this or stuff. And dude, anyway, we could do a week on Pay It Forward. I own it. I mean, I haven't watched it since I bought it, but I do have it.
I saw it there, but I was not there for what you're describing.
We have to eventually, or somehow that has to come out.
All right.
But anyway,
I haven't finished the story of the first pot smoking. We certainly haven't even gotten like fucking within the universe of Close to Excel. But let's call this an episode.
I think this has been great.
Let's pick that up. Next one. Does that work?
Yeah, of course. Okay. Yes.
This is wonderful. I love this journey.
I agree. Okay. Should we take headphones off?
Yeah, that's it.